Welcome back, everybody, to the ISA Insider News. I don't know why I'm flailing my arms this way. It feels natural. I'm standing. We don't usually stand when we're doing this, but we're back. It's been a couple weeks. How are you, Shana?
It has been a couple weeks. Well, I think we both had some COVID happening in there.
We
So
both
we're
tried
back
going on vacation.
Tried to go on vacation. It was not a success. Yes, kind of a bummer, but happy to be home and happy to be feeling somewhat better. So we're going to do our best today to get through our ISA Insider News. And we're going to start with this week's top headline for the week of July 11th. I can't believe it's the week of July 11th already. It's all about Emmy nominations. And we are talking about sure things and shocking snubs.
Shocking snubs, the Emmys. There's a whole bunch to be inspired by, I think, for our episode today. And I think that's a good place to be. We've got a full moon tomorrow on July 13th, I think. So it's kind of out with the old, in with the new. Emmy nominations, that Emmy time is always inspiring, although it's getting a little robust. the whole
That's a great
Emmy.
word.
I mean, the number of nominated categories or categories with nominations is absurd. I had no idea that there were that many.
And just the amount of nominations one particular show is getting and holding on to is insane. I mean, Succession is the top runner with 22. Ted Lasso for the second year in a row has 20. White Lotus, which is the new limited series in the Emmys race this year, has 20. I'm not a fan of White Lotus, and I'm quite honestly angry that Midnight Mass didn't get any nominations and White Lotus got 20. I mean,
I thought I could understand why White Lotus got that many, because it's a very artful approach to telling a story in a particular way. You know, it's incredibly character motivated and generated as opposed to concept focused. And so I can understand. At the same time, Midnight Mass was much more enjoyable. And that's the same thing every year with every award season. You know, the movies that people love are not nominated or whatever. But I think that the trouble here, and there are a couple articles that we're going to share here with links. There's an Emmy commentary article that's pretty interesting. Now, it's just one person's opinion, so we don't have to all agree with it. But I do agree with most of what this person is saying in terms of all these different rule changes and how it's changed how much has been being nominated. And like you were saying before we started, Shana, about there's no definitive or finite number of categories, like a number of I see this is COVID brain coming out. I can't even speak normally.
So what I was reading, which I didn't know, was a couple of years ago, they changed the criteria for voting. So there wasn't a certain limit to how many nominations you could vote for. And it was sort of like, well, just vote for as many as you think are worthy. Well, that's sort of like now turned into a runaway train of now there's just like a gazillion nominations in one category. Like, what the heck? And then also the other interesting thing this year is that during the nominations, they stopped acknowledging the platform or network that the show was on. So all of those in the years past, when HBO Max or Netflix has been like, oh, we're the leader with 138 trillion, nominations. Now they had to like count them themselves because it was like, wait, you're not saying the name of the platform. So I thought that was interesting.
Well, I mean, the business is behind all of the award season stuff it's for real. I mean, this isn't just a nice little award that's given out. I mean, there's a lot of money at stake for all these different, shows and projects to be nominated. But
it's a beast.
It is interesting that Yellowstone was completely snubbed. I am not a huge fan of Yellowstone. I'm one of the few people that I just couldn't get into it. So in a weird way, I feel somewhat vindicated. At the same time, there's another part of what they're not doing with these nominations is noting the season that is being nominated, as opposed to just Ted Lasso again. So, well, are you honoring them for the previous season or the current season that and so maybe one of the reasons why Yellowstone was snubbed because it's the most recent, season 5 or something that they're on. I will say 1883 didn't get many nominations. I thought Isabella May did an amazing job as the lead, but they did get some cinematography, and I think music nominations. But anyway,
Yes, it's very confusing because there are no set shows beginning in the fall, ending in the spring, and you don't have a season that's like set in the calendar and everything's starting at different times. It's very hard to understand what you're voting for. For example, COVID brain, no hate to Killing Eve, because I loved that show all the way up to the very end, but Jodie Comer and Sandra Oh got nominated, and the last season of that show was not great, and I don't think that it's Emmy nomination worthy for the final season, although they are amazing. So that part is confusing. And I think that kind of took away from maybe some other nominations. For example, I forget her name in Yellowstone, but I mean, I'm not a huge Yellowstone fan either, but the daughter, the one who
Riley,
like
last name.
Yeah. I mean, hello, where's her nomination?
It's awesome. Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, I think as for the general viewing public, it really doesn't matter that much. We might be like, oh, shoot, that's too bad. And then, I hope this show wins. But for the industry, it's a big deal. And especially this new approach from the Academy, not announcing that these particular streamers or networks had this many nominations, et cetera, because it just puts the onus on the companies to count them themselves, which in a way I kind of understand. It's not the Academy job to be like, well, HBO Max was the best. Who cares, But these two articles are really interesting. You should definitely read them. We will share them here, and give us your opinion. Let us know what you think. But let's move on to this week. Let's move on to.
We need like a COVID alert. COVID alert.
Let's not even bother editing any of this. It'll be more fun. It's like an experiment in post-COVID experience. But let's move on to this week on the ISA Insider. We've got a couple really cool, inspiring articles. One with Matt Lieberman, who wrote Free Guy and Christmas Chronicles, a whole bunch of other ones. But then a really interesting exercise that we can, pseudo exercise kind of educational approach.
So the first one is called Find Your Ironic Hook of an Idea. It's an older article that has been reissued because it's actually a really good one. If you are somebody who's trying to figure out maybe how to come up with that high concept idea, or an idea that is really going to, light you up, light people up, get people to the theater, you want to sell something, this is a great article. I mean, Matt is somewhat of an anomaly. He writes very fast. He writes, I think he wrote Christmas Chronicles in 10 days or something like that. He rewrites after that, but to get that initial, it's kind of insane. But there's some really great things in here about his formula of coming up with something ironic about a concept, really thinking about movies that he loves, that then he can maybe like come up with something else and figure out that hook and really use that hook to dive into the script. So
Christmas Chronicles is a great example, because he in the article, he's talking about what can I do with the genre and do something that we haven't seen in a different genre, combine the two. And at first it was just a found footage movie as a part of a Christmas movie. That's something that that's kind of interesting. But I think what's key about reading, or just what to pay attention to when you're reading this article, and just about Matt's career in general, is that he's constantly in idea generation mode. Constantly. He's not precious at all about any of his projects. And I think for all of us writers watching this or listening, we have to remember that. I think I'm going to read a little bit here from the article, because it's a nice little pinpoint that we all can kind of anchor ourselves when looking at the article. But he says, part of the work is learning not to be so precious about things and get them out of your head. The more you sit and think of the perfect line or making the scene perfect, you're probably holding yourself back. The best thing to do is to get out of your head. People call it the vomit draft. Get the bad version out, because usually the bad version is pretty close to the better version. Or if it's not, you can get it out, see what it is, see what's working or not working. And that's something that is tied to another little portion of our broadcast that I'm going to bring up. But it's this idea of what's next, what's your next project? And writers, from my experience, we're not doing that enough. We're like, well, here are my 4. You need 23 other ideas, and just throw them out there, see what happens.
I agree. I also liked that he was talking about working on multiple projects at the same time. So setting yourself up on your schedule. So he writes in the morning, but then he'll switch in the afternoon to something else just to keep his brain active and sort of charged up on his ideas that he has. Sometimes people, that's very difficult for writers to do. You need to stay in one thing, but I work better too when I'm kind of like jumping around a little bit, because one idea over here will help me figure out something over here. And without even knowing it, because I'm freeing up my brain of this thought process and going over here. It's kind of like how you have your great ideas in the shower. It's because you're like, you're not
letting go.
Know the right thing. Yeah. COVID.
COVID.
You're letting go. You're not really thinking about the details. You're sort of like free in your brain. And that's when sort of things pop in.
Says he meditates every morning. And I think it's key. You just kind of clear your head, because it's so easy to get into the material side of the business, or what can I sell this for? Or, what kind of executive can I send the script? You're not even done with it. Like let's figure out the idea first,
Yep.
Definitely worth reading that article. Let's move on to the other one. What's this other one?
So this other one is a really great reminder and an exercise that, like Max mentioned, it's called The End is Just the Beginning. And it's by Ruth Atkinson. It is an ISA article. Basically, what it's saying is, if you know where your character ends up and the way that their arc ends, then you can start there and then you can sort of go backwards. So for example, they're talking about Silver Linings Playlist. Pat learns to move on from his marriage, embrace a relationship with Tiffany, and manage his illness. So since we know this is where the story ends, you can backtrack to the first act and make sure we set up the fact that he's fixated on getting his wife back, uninterested in any other romantic relationship, and not in control of his illness.
It's looking at like
exercise.
Yeah, it's kind of looking at the opposites in a way. And any writer who's worked with me or been on my webinars, that I take this 12 sequence approach to movies, to features, in a way you can apply it to TV, but it's a little bit more formulaic in a TV, in a movie sense. But that third act is all about this flaw correction, but you have to know how to set up that so-called flaw. Who is this person at the beginning, set in their ways, that technically their flaw is working for them. That's just because that's who they are and who they all have always been. But now we look at them in an opposite way at the end, and you can figure out, because sometimes writers, they hear that as like, sure, start from the beginning, but I don't know how it's supposed to end. The way to figure that out, basically what this article is saying, is consider who this person is at the beginning, and then how the opposite of that will look. Write the opposite of that as just a brainstorm, and see what that third act or the 12th sequence, the final climax sequence, might look like, and then work your way back. I like the term that they're using here, epiphany. And I come from this 12 sequence approach, where there are 3 sequences in the third act, and the end of the second act is the low point. It's the all is lost feeling, which we all know. But the epiphany is important, because that epiphany happens technically before the climax. The epiphany isn't necessarily the climax. It's what draws them to then do what they've never been able to do before. So I like the word. It just kind of simplifies it.
I like that. I wrote in a script once, we actually literally used the word epiphany. It's a comedy. And so she's like, oh my God, I just had my epiphany.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Gosh, I just had an idea.
So yeah, it works.
What if there was a movie where the person just constantly experienced epiphanies, one after the other? How would you'd have to
they become diluted?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're just magic, epiphany. You're like, yeah. Not that one. Right. Not that one.
Well, that is this week on the ISA Insider. You should check it out. You should go to the ISA's website. And use that as your morning hub after you meditate and before you're generating ideas. Just read some news, man. It helps.
It totally helps. Kind of gets you in that writer mindset anyway. And gets you sort of acclimated again and back in with your peers, I think.
We already mentioned that we've been going through and dealing with COVID. We're both pretty much out of it, but there's some fogginess. The one thing for me, since my vacation, hard air quotes, was at home, I was able to watch a ton of TV, played video games.
Oh, you're lucky.
Yeah, I know. I never play video games, and I was able to do that for the first time in years. But what are you watching?
Well, when I was on my COVID vacation, I didn't have a TV, so I wasn't watching anything. But I did start watching this weekend, The Bear.
Which is what is The Bear?
this is amazing. And I have like a personal connection. So The Bear is the story of, I forget his name. He's an actor. He was in Shameless. And he basically takes over after the death of his brother. He takes over a Chicago beef restaurant.
Right. I heard about this.
And the whole show is really sort of about toxic masculinity in terms of the restaurant world. And I like to relate it to people talking about auteurs in filmmaking. I'm sorry, but there's no auteurs in filmmaking. It is a collaborative process of multiple people working on something. There's not one person.
Like since college, the word auteur is really just a fancy word for huge ego.
Totally. It's narcissists right there. Yes. So The Bear is the story of this chef who was like Michelin chef guy who came to take over in this small restaurant. So it's amazing and it's loud and obnoxious, but it's riveting. And the really amazing thing that I wanted to talk about is that I used to work in reality TV. I did a show called Dame Good Takeout, which was with Dame Drops, who has a Netflix show now called Fresh and Crispy or something like that. Anyway, we went to Mr. Beef in Chicago and we filmed there. And this show, The Bear, is basically, they filmed the exterior of Mr. Beef, and which was the first sort of like beef, whatever store. It's like a roast beef sandwich type thing. Yeah, it's absolutely delicious. Italian.
Yeah. Without
so what they did is they replicated the interior of this restaurant in a studio, and that's the set. But I was watching it on the pilot, and I was like, is that Mr. Beef? Because it's exactly, they have arcade machines in there and like all the things. And I was like, holy crap, this is the kitchen. It's so bizarre. But I absolutely adore the guy who owns Mr. Beef, like really down home Chicago dude, like a really good dude. And so I was just really happy that I hope that they get some added business and stuff and people coming to the store, because the show's just amazing.
Is the lead in the show based on the owner of the beef, Mr. Beef?
I don't think so. Okay. I don't think so. I think it's just supposed to be the original, Italian beef place in Chicago, or one of the originals that's sort of like failing, and they're trying to, figure out how to revive it.
Yeah.
But it's a really good show, and I did not think that I was going to be into it, but it's actually really, really good. So you should check it out.
That's on Hulu?
It's on Hulu. It's
interesting, because Hulu is now 3 of the 4 shows that we're referencing in What Are We Watching segment. The Only Murders in the Building season 2, just love that show. It's not good. Like, it's not that great. It really is. Like, I can understand why
it's fun.
It's so much fun, and I could seriously just watch Martin Short stand and stare. I could just watch him stare, and I just laugh hysterically. The guy makes me laugh every word that comes out of his mouth. Steve Martin's awesome. Selena Gomez is good. It's not that great, but it's so much fun, and it's juicy, and so I'm loving that. And then Stranger Things, of course. I watched the final part of Eddie's. That was so great. I was laughing so hard. Oh my God.
Praise Eddie Munson. We love you, buddy.
Good old Eddie. But what I'm really excited about is that I just saw like one little reference on some kind of like ISA Insider News article or something, but it's a show called The Old Man with Jeff Bridges and John Lithgow, and the female actress who I'm forgetting her name, and she's really good, and I've seen her before in many things. Well, Amy Brenneman's one of them, but I'm talking about the younger actor. But really great show. Totally recommend watching. You at first think it's just this ex kind of CIA operative who's now an older man, and in his past life is kind of catching up to him. But then you get deeper and deeper into why it's catching up with him, and then the characters that are getting involved in the fact that he is now in danger. It's really well done. I'm surprised.
Ooh, I'm going to check that out.
Yeah, more people are not talking about it. It's really good.
Ooh, I can't wait. I'm going to add that to my list.
And I'm kind of jealous that you're able to watch it, like you are able to watch it one after another, because it sucks having to wait every week to watch the thing,
Why? What's it on? It's on Hulu, but it's on
Hulu. Yeah, so Hulu, The Old Man, and then Only Murders in the Building, and then The Bear. So well done, Hulu. And then of course Stranger Things on Netflix. Yeah, we have on July 27th. You don't have any events this month, right?
No.
The only ISA event in July is my webinar called 9 Things Every Writer Needs. And I hate using the word needs because it's as if there's no, wiggle room there. It's hard to say that you need these things. And I'm going to kind of put that disclaimer out there. It's just, these are the things that have come. And there are a lot more than 9, I think, technically. But
Sure.
Anyway, that's July 27th. Moving on to Twitter. We've got our Twitter question coming from Blue Cat Writers. So Blue Cat is a screenplay competition. They are not sponsoring this, but we like Blue Cat. It's a big competition. But what are they saying?
We just like Blue Cat.
Blue Cat.
We just like Blue Cat. Okay, so this was actually up last week, I believe. So you might have to do a search if you're looking for it. But they were asking, what's one piece of advice you would give to yourself when you first started out? Yeah,
it's such a good question because there are so many things that I would say, but I think it's connected to the Matt Lieberman article for me. But what about you?
No, I want you to go first.
You want me to go
first? Yeah.
I would have spent more time trying to come up with more ideas. Absolutely. I had maybe, I still have technically, like 6 or 7 or so that I was too precious about them. So that's the other part of the advice. Don't be so precious about your ideas. All of your ideas are going to be special to you, but you have to get to a point where you just be like, well, they're not that special because the likelihood of these things selling are extremely low. So why waste that much time on them? And I shouldn't use the word waste, but you know what I mean? So yeah, don't be precious. And I would have spent a lot more time generating ideas. I think because of reading that article, I'm going to buy a whiteboard and I'm just going to start. Going to have even just 20-minute sessions of this with this, or maybe that combination or this kind of, and just see what happens. Who cares if nothing works? You have nothing to lose.
That's true. I think for me, there's 2 things. One, when I first started out, I wish that I would have stopped this, and it's sort of a female belief sometimes about that we need to take every step to be ready. And I wish I would have just gathered up my friends when we were like 22 and made stuff and not lived with that, oh my God, I'm not ready. I need to learn this. I need to learn that. And then in terms of writing, I think that kind of along the same lines, I wish that I would have just spent more time just like really diving in to different stories and just like writing. I think I was too precious with, okay, this has to be perfect. And until I joined my writing group, I was just very hesitant because again, I didn't think I was ready. So I guess overall, I just wish I would have gotten out of my own way and just done it, as opposed to thinking that I have to learn more or know more people or do anything like that.
I think we're on the same wavelength. And I think for any writer, even now, like I can give this advice to myself now. Like why it's not too late. I remember hearing once, and I'm going off on a tangent here, but Dr. Wayne Dyer is this kind of self-help guru, if you will. He passed away a few years ago, but I remember him talking about how he was with a client once and she was really upset that she never learned how to ride a bike. And he was like, well, then go learn how to ride a bike. Nobody's stopping you from doing that now. And I always think about that. It's like, well, if I was trying to be a professional athlete, yeah, you should probably stop it with that dream. Like I'm too old. I'm not, but in terms of writing and being an artist, there's literally no end or age limit. So keep generating ideas. So there's no reason to be stopping that,
Yeah, this thing keeps popping up, this like phrase, and I guess it's on like Instagram or whatever, but it keeps popping up that like, you can't have fear and manifesting in the same space. So to manifest, you have to get rid of fear. If you have fear, nothing can manifest. So you have to like drop the fear and just go.
Right. Oh gosh, we could go off on a very long tangent about manifesting in the universe, especially with these amazing Webb telescope photographs that have come out recently. You just see the universe out there.
Super inspiring.
Stay inspired, everybody. And I think we're going to end with one that it keeps me inspired because this person is amazing. And I want everyone to remember the Moses West Foundation. This is our good news of the week. I randomly saw, I think it was like a video clip on Instagram or something, I don't know, about this gentleman named Moses West. And their cause, you can just go to moseswestfoundation.org, But their cause is supplies a safe, resilient, and reliable source of water to people in time of need with the use of donated atmospheric water generators. Now, what he means by that is that he's being far too humble. He made these things. He made this big, huge, almost looks like a shipping container of a machine that generates clean water. There's a whole filtration system inside, pulling the water from the air. So you could literally go out.
They pull moisture from the air and turn it into drinking water.
Turn it into drinking
I
water.
mean,
a lot of it, not just like, oh, I have a little jug.
yeah.
He has hoses of these things flying out the side of these shipping. It's working, you know, and so he's saying use of donated generators. He makes them, and he is able to make them because of donations. So if you have a little bit of money to spend, I don't care if it's $10, we should all be throwing our money at this person because it's incredible.
And follow them and share their, share what they're doing, shout it out, spread the word, whatever you can do. If you can't donate, then spread the word.
Yeah, MosesWestFoundation.org. You can find him on Instagram. He posts all the time. Moses West Foundation is the Instagram. But that is our ISA Insider News of the week, everybody. Anything else to share, Shana?
Stay healthy out there and drink lots of water.
Yeah, if you can figure out a way to pull it from the air.
We'll start licking the air.
I will say that I'm wearing my shirt specifically because I laughed pretty hard that Amazon is promoting like the countdown to the previews of their coming Lord of the Rings series. I thought it was, I'm excited. I'm a huge Tolkien Lord of the Rings fan, but there was like a 30-second premiere of a teaser that they made a big, huge deal about it on Amazon. And they're like, a countdown to the next one. And I'm like, what? I'm going to count down to the next trailer. Okay, well, they're trying to
count down to the next trailer for the
$500 million on this thing.
That's
but anyway, here's my ode to JRR. That's it, everybody. That's everything.
All righty. We will see you next week.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a great week, everyone.